we can't tolerate that anymore. It doesn't work.
You want to take a picture? She's recording it.
So
Are you recording?
we need to all learn to love each other and work together, because if we can't do that, then everything's lost. You know? Yes. Amen. Amen. Yes.
And that's the thing, that's what I was saying about when I tell people, it's so strange that for a country, our flag, our crest, always there, it's strange.
Yeah.
It's almost, it's so,
Paradox.
it's a paradox.
Yeah.
But so you feel he was the one who's not going to take it out of us.
Good night.
Good night, Dr. Freed.
Sleep tight.
Awesome. Great words today.
I'm sorry.
That's what I was saying too, that I have a problem with, and me and my godbrother, we got into it. My late brother and the phone for one. Because I told her, I said, you always talk bad about Haiti, you always talking bad about Haiti, but you never stop putting Haiti in 42 years. You know, instead of aiding, instead of coming down, getting involved, you know.
The older generation sometimes gets real opinionated. You know, my grandmother grew up in the South, and a lot of my family, when I was growing up, very prejudiced. Very prejudiced. They say things and stuff, and in their heart, they're good people. They would never not do something for somebody because of like race or whatever else, but just the way that they were taught to talk is wrong, you know, and stuff. And so, like, they were raised that way. And my siblings, my brother and my sister, and when we grew up, we were like, that doesn't work. We can't live like that, you know. And you see all this stuff. My grandmother, still to this day, I mean, she's getting better about it. But she told me before coming here, she said I told her that I was coming to Haiti. She said, she goes, oh, you don't need to come. You don't need to go there. You know, if your feet are itching to go someplace, come and see me, because it's long.
It's a little on your face.
Yeah, it's long overdue, is what she said. And it hasn't been that long since I saw her, and so I called her on the phone and I said, Grandma. And she goes, I said, what's the deal? And she goes, you're not really going there, are you? And I said, absolutely I am. Wow. And she goes, she's like, why? And I said, Grandma, those people are suffering there. And God has made the way for me to go there. God's hand was in that from the first day. You asked Missy. I sat there talking to them. I didn't even know that there was a group of people going. I knew that Dennis said he was going. And then Lisa had said something, and God made me stand up in church and say something to her to encourage her on a Wednesday night. And we walked out after church and we started talking in the parking lot. And I told him, I said, there's no way I could go because I got all of this in the way, you know, all this stuff. And Missy said, well, what would have to happen for you to go? And I listed out a whole list of things that would have to happen. You know, by the time I drove my car home that night, and which was 20 minutes from there, all of those things had already been taken care of without me doing anything.
Wow.
God said, okay, go, step forward and do it. And so every time I tried to use my brain to figure out how I was going to, if the details were all going to fit, God said, no, you don't make me fit to you. You have to step forward in faith knowing that I'm going to do this. And the funny thing is that's exactly what I had got up and told Lisa that night. And I prayed that night to God and asked Him if he wanted me to come on this trip. And I said I wanted confirmation. And he told me to open my Bible. And Pastor Dennis had given this sermon, and so I had put this piece of paper in my Bible to mark this other passage, and when I opened it, it opened to Isaiah 58. You know what Isaiah 58 says? Well, I started at verse 6. It says, "Is not this the kind of fasting that I have chosen, to loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke? Is it not to share your food with the hungry and provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe him, not to turn away from your own flesh and blood. Then your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing will quickly appear. Then your righteousness will go before you, and the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer, and you will cry for help, and He will say, Here am I. If you do away with the yoke of oppression, and the pointing finger and malicious talk, if you spend yourselves on behalf of the hungry, and satisfy the needs of the oppressed, then your light will rise in the darkness, and your night will become like the noonday. The Lord will guide you always and will satisfy your needs in a sun-scorched land." And that was going through my head in that truck. "And will strengthen your frame. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail. Your people will rebuild the ancient ruins and will raise up the age-old foundations, and you will be called repairer of broken walls, restorers of streets with dwellings." And I read that, and I just knew that I was supposed to come here. And, I ended up, and I was like, I didn't have the money to pay for my ticket. And I didn't want the church to pay for my ticket, because that money could be used to feed people and to provide medicine and stuff like that. So I was like, Lord, I'm just going to trust that you're going to provide a way. My boss called me and said, I need you to fly to D.C. and go work on this stuff. And when I go out of town like that, I make really good money. Yeah. And so I started making, I was making $250 a day plus per diem while I was up there. It paid for my whole entire trip and paid for my son to still go on his vacation. Wow. It was exactly enough. It was exactly enough. When I got home, my passport was at my house. And for 4 days, people were walking up to me and saying stuff about Isaiah 58, Isaiah 58, Isaiah 58, and the Lord just saying, okay, keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. And so He was just encouraging me the whole time. And so I just told my grandmother, I said, look, these people are suffering. They have no food to eat. They don't have people that are going to bring them medical care. I can't sit here and sit in my home knowing that those people are suffering and not go help them. I can't do it. And God called me and He told me to go, and I'm going. And she said, okay. I can't help it.
I think she gives them the Reader's Digest.